Hello, everyone. Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to the Going Solo with Cece show. I am Cece Shatz, and I welcome you here tonight. If those of you that don't know me, I'm the Doyenne of relationship building. And what does that mean? I'm a connector. I help connect you with some pretty awesome people. I help walk you through probably some of the darkest times of your life as we transition into being single from, maybe divorce or relationship loss. But we really have a great, strong bond. And we have these wonderful shows here on goingsolomedia.com. So I hope you'll check us out. Check out all of the other hosts, all the wonderful shows. And let's get on with our topic tonight, because we have really got a great topic. We're going to talk about a book, a wonderful book. It's called Survive 911 Medical Emergencies. Our wonderful author here is our guest tonight, Nancy May. Let's bring her forward. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Cece, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, it's great having you here. Well, Nancy, you have a wonderful company, and it's called Care Manatee. I'm going to just put up your contact information so everyone can see that. So you can just go to caremanatee.com or howtosurvive911.com, and you can find out the information. So why did you decide that you wanted to write a book like this, 911 Medical Emergency?
It really was born out of all the years of taking care of my mom and dad. Mom just passed away in December 8th. She was 91, just had reached her 91st birthday, and I was able to celebrate about 2 weeks before she passed with great energy and vigor and joy, which was wonderful. And dad, who passed away at 99 and 47 days, and I say 47 days because every day counts. And it certainly does for all of us. But over those years, gosh, I started really getting involved in their care and oversight, financial, legal, healthcare proxies and whatnot, about 15 years ago, when mom started to show some signs of dementia. Actually, as my husband and I have been just talking recently, there were signs a lot earlier. I'd say probably a good maybe 20 years back that we just didn't even notice. There were the subtle little hints that now are like, that was about. But over the course of time, there were early on, it seemed like every 2 or 3 weeks, I was getting a call from somebody saying, Audrey's in the ER again. And I was 1,200 miles away. Wow. And thankfully, we had good family friends who had told me, and where I stayed when mom and dad didn't have their own house anymore, they'd gone into a care facility. And she said, look, at any time your mother has to go somewhere, your dad, just let me know. Doesn't matter what time of the day or night it is. I will go over to the hospital and give you a full account of what's going on and make sure that the right authorities know your number, how to reach you, because mom didn't quite know what to say. Her dementia hadn't gone full swing, and dad's way of handling emotional distress was just ignore it, it'll go away.
Right.
In fact, I remember being on the train platform up in Connecticut, heading into New York one morning, and it was probably about 6:30, and I get a call on my cell phone from my father. And I never get a call on my cell phone from my father. He would always call the house phone. He didn't like cell phones. Right. And it was, hey, Nance, it's dad. Mom's had a heart attack. She's in the hospital. She's okay. Goodbye. and most people would panic, but I started to chuckle on the train platform getting into the city. I immediately called my sister, who was in Oklahoma, and I said, did you get a strange call from dad? Hello, it's dad. Mom had a heart attack. She's in the hospital, but she's okay. Goodbye. And she laughed and she said yes. So the first person I called outside of that then was Jacqueline, our family friend. And she says, yes, I'm on my way. I'm taking care of it. I'll let you know what's going on. So we had this network. You're the great connector. I'm a pretty good connector too. So we had this network of people that we could rely on outside of mom and dad to sort of keep my ear on the ground and let me know what was happening. And over time, family members and other people said, I understand you're taking pretty good care of your folks. I have got this problem. What do I do? And 911 was always sort of a bellwether for what was about ready to happen.
Right.
And I actually looked at another book. I tried to look into doing a first aid book for elderly people, but I'm not a doctor. And The Red Cross first aid book is pretty good, but it doesn't get into some of the issues that you deal with more older, frail people. And I thought that would just be too much of an undertaking. And quite frankly, 911 is going to happen more often than you realize it.
Boy, I tell you, I know, because I took care of my dad for quite a while, and he actually lived with us, my ex and I, for like 10 years. And then when we got divorced, we he still stayed with me for about a year, and then he went with my sister, and then he came back again. And when he came back this last time to live with me, he was ill. He was definitely ill. And I could see a definite decline in him. And that's not only are you dealing with that emotionally because you're a child, and you're seeing this man to you had all this energy and vigor and luckily my father always had his mind. So, but you could just see that he's fighting to walk. Yes. He's fighting to get up. He's just really doing, all of his energy to do all the various different things. And then you're trying to say to yourself, well, how do I cross that line from being a daughter, to a caregiver, and a caregiver, man, you have to do everything under the sun. I mean, I learned that the hard way, but I just rolled up my sleeves and did whatever I needed to do, at the time. But I wish I had a book like yours that might have helped me a little.
Everything you say is absolutely correct. And the hard part for them is to realize that they have to rely so much on you. I hear people in different groups and outside of my little community saying, well, they're the children now. And I really hate it when people say that, because our parents are never our children. They're still our parents. And just, this is my own personal belief, to say that they are children is, to me, I think it shows a sign of disrespect and truly not understanding. They're still your parents. They're still older than you. They're still adults. They just happen to be more frail and infirmed. And to me, that was just a way to put a more of a gentle spin on it and not be the bossy control freak, because I tried as much as possible to give both my parents as much space and dignity and respect, that they still had as much control as they wanted or could. And myself and my aides, we just sort of stepped in and made sure that everything happened smoothly. So that's and my dad had his full marbles right to the end. Mom had not Alzheimer's, but definitely dementia through a series of TIAs or mini strokes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sad to hear that, but it is very hard. And I remember, because my dad was very stubborn and never liked to admit that he needed help or anything like that. And so I had to always be careful of the way I word things, because sometimes I would be like, jump in and let's get it, let's do this. And then I'd realize, oh, he's not going to want to do that. And then he calls me bossy, it's like, oh, I don't mean to be bossy. I just want to take care of you, I want to make sure that you live another day, with that kind of thing. And so I had to really watch how I said things and try to be very careful with what I did. But I found that my life was turned around, and I really almost didn't have a life anymore taking care of him. I mean, it was like 24/7. It got to the point where I wasn't hardly even sleeping because I was doing this and doing that for him. And not that my father, ever asked me to do it. He just you had to. I would get up middle of the night, check, make sure he's breathing, those kind of things.
Right.
And so I didn't have really the support system.
Yeah.
And so, which I thought your book would be very helpful, because there was a lot of times I worried when I really didn't need to worry. You know what I mean?
Support system is critical, especially for me, because I was doing this in Connecticut. My parents were down in Florida. We've just recently moved to Florida after Mom passed. I wish I had been here a little earlier, but I was down about every 2 months. And towards the end, I was down, every other week, it seemed like, and sometimes for just 3 weeks at a time. And I go back just to check on things and come back down. But You really do need to have a support team. I had taken mom and dad out of a care facility and into another one that was independent, and then ended up hiring aides of my own, not through an agency, but finding them themselves because I'm a good networker. And I halfway jokingly called it Mom and Dad Inc. So I had my own business, and mom and dad were business do.
Oh, wow.
And as long as I kept that in my mind, and I've heard of other people doing that as well, it tends to be more business professionals, not that it can happen by anybody else. But if I thought about it with that mindset, it gave me the ability to put a little bit of a boundary between my personal and emotional life and what I needed to do day in and day out. Now, I'm going to say there's a lot of emotion involved. And just like you, there are times that I slept with my cell phone next to my bed thinking, I'm going to get another call at 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, whatever it was, before I had my own aides. But that kept me up a lot. And that was the hard part until I got my support team really well structured. And then I knew that I had the right group of people to do what they needed to, so the boots on the ground,
right,
to get it done. And I had one lead aide and then 5 other independent aides that worked with that one lead as a coordinator. I changed the lead only once, and my final lead was with me for 9 years. Actually, she's just over here having dinner with us last night. So
that's great.
We're so close. Yeah.
I had to do, because when we first got him, he was ill and everything. And so luckily the VA helped tremendously, but I had to initiate all of that, to get all of those kind of things in place, to get financially, to be able to get things, because what I found is that all of a sudden, not only was I taking care of my father, financially, it was a tremendous, because there was bandages and there were, other needs, things that he had to have, and then had to get, and my brother was great on getting a like we got the wheelchair, and then we got the electric wheelchair, and then that we needed batteries, and we needed various different things. And so some of my friends helped out and they helped pay for some things. So, I mean, it was quite a struggle at the very beginning, but then after a while, as you said, I got everything in place. I got everything going, and, getting his dialysis and all of those kind of things. And so but it was quite a task. I mean, it was a job.
Oh, it's a full job. That's why I said Mom and Dad Inc., right?
Yeah.
And
I'm
the VA
still
is
working,
great.
and it was a job.
I was too. I have my own business, and now I'm starting a second one as a result. But the VA is a great resource. The VA has an awful lot available. My dad was a World War II vet and relied a lot on the VA. But I also found that the VA is not as convenient as being able to walk into your independent care doctor. So you have to make long-term, appointments well in advance, like you do with doctors. But even still, if you've got an emergency and you need to go in quickly, it's tough to get many of those appointments. And then you wait and you wait and you wait, as you do with many doctors. Actually, a lot of doctors will overbook. So that's why you'll see 4 hours in the waiting room sometimes, especially where there's a community of older people. It's not because something has come up, but typically it's because the older generation or that particular clientele will not show up or will cancel appointments at the last minute. So they'll put 4 or 5 people in that 20-minute space that they're supposed to see you. And not everybody cancels. So it becomes a real dilemma for the patients. And I'm an advocate. If you see that in the doctor's room, find another doctor, because they don't know how to manage their business either. But the VA, we had to battle a couple of times. I know there was one time that my dad had a bed that needed to be replaced because the motor didn't work, and we couldn't get it going. We tried. Even my lead aide's husband was a mechanic. We see if he could fix it. Nope, couldn't do it. And so I called the VA, and they said, well, it'll be about 6 or 9 months to get one. And I went into the VA, and they didn't give me any more help. And then I called back and I said, that is not acceptable. Here's the message of my World War II vet is, how would you like me to handle this? I can go to your superior. I will find the people in charge. I will hunt them down and make your life miserable. I probably didn't see those words, but I was pretty close to it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've had to do that too, but I did a different technique. I did a different approach. I'm very much like my mom, and I would say, so if this was your dad, how would you feel? How would you feel? If you're a vet, how would you feel if you needed this and this is what you couldn't get? How would
So
you feel?
yeah,
And
very
when I
much.
did that,
I
they
did
were
that
like,
with
okay,
doctors. Yeah.
I'm sure there's an opening here. And they would bend over backwards, because I think we do sometimes lose our sensitivity when we're doing a job over and over again. We forget on the other side. And I think some of these workers do, they forget on the other side. These are real people with real serious problems, and they're calling because they need your help, not because they want to chit chat for the afternoon or wait in your waiting room for 4 hours, which I have done, and so, and that's the same thing I said to the doctor. I said, if this was your dad and you were waiting in the waiting room for 4 hours, how would you feel? And
Typically they don't have an answer in many cases.
and then they're
That's
like,
about
oh,
it.
they get real again. And so sometimes I think we have to push their button a little bit, and we have to say, hey, turn on and be real person again, kind of step out of that, and put your emotions back on it. But it's true. There's a lot to it. So share with us a little bit about the 911 medical emergencies. Like, how do we survive some of these things? Like, is your book like where you have, it's different scenarios or different?
No, it's really a step-by-step walkthrough. So we go right from the beginning before 911 emergency happens.
Yeah.
And to what do you do to help the paramedics or the technicians that are coming in to find you and to help with the scenario? What happens when you get to the emergency room? How do you help those doctors that are there that are trying to save a life actually do so well? What happens in the hospital? How can you make sure you get a better care, care when you're released? And we've even got the last chapter and you'll be released to a care facility, to a rehab facility, or to home. So we've got those 3 scenarios. And the very last chapter is what happens when the emergency medical system is down. You don't have a telephone, you don't have electricity, there's a storm, there's a hurricane, there's a tornado, and you don't have any way to get help. So there's a short chapter in the back on how to do that. And actually, because so many of us rely on our cell phones instead of a landline nowadays,
Right.
if the system and the power is down and you can't get a signal, if you text 911 and you have access, in the book, I don't have it right on the top of my, I can send it to you later on. There's a link to check and see whether this particular system is set up within your geographic region. It's called Text to 911. I think it's called the Text to 911 system. It's been a while since I've looked at it. They will actually find you and get help to you. So even though you don't have a signal, they will know that somebody's calling for help, even if you text it, which is great to know.
Great. That's great information.
But there are other ways to do it that don't even include technology. Getting a white sheet out and saying, help, big block letters. What do you need to do? I'm putting it on the side of the road. Anything that shows that you need help in emergency care. But having that support system is critical. Right to the beginning. I mean, just making sure people can find your house, having the number on the house. One of the technicians, and a paramedic trainer that helped us review the book and with points, lives in the woods up by where we were, and she doesn't have the numbers on our house. And I was like, so Susie, I couldn't find you. I mean, you're the expert who's saying you need to have numbers in the house. There's no numbers on the mailbox. There's no numbers on your house. Well, everybody knows where I am. Yeah, and if there's a new person on staff and they don't know where you are and you need help, what happens?
Wow, yeah.
Hoarders, got to deal with hoarding, those kind of issues. If the door is locked, and they can't get in, the paramedics can't break into the house. They have to wait for the police. Right. So you need a lockbox or something, an emergency lockbox, so that people can get in, and other ways to do it. But it goes really from step to step. There are check boxes and checklists, and a file of life. Critical thing to have. If you go to howtosurvive911.com, we have a free file of life. It's a fillable PDF with all the instructions on how to use it and how many you should have.
Wow, that's very good. Because I knew that just when the first time I called the emergency.
It's scary.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to deal with him, trying to deal with everything. And then they come in and then they start asking me all these questions. And I'm like, like his meds. And also I learned real quick I have a list of all his medications. I had a couple copies. I just handed it right over. That's it, blah, blah, blah. And so you learn, but you learn the hard way. So I think your book will be very, very helpful for anyone that's actually taking care of,
And it's an easy read. There are a lot of checklists and, like how to have a first aid kit for an older person versus yourself. There are certain things that you need that are different. That the skin is very frail and fragile and delicate. So a regular bandage can just literally rip the skin right off of somebody. So there are actually sensitive skin bandages that you really want to consider getting just in case, because, you bleed a lot easier with this.
Right, that's true, and especially we're in Florida, so we have the hot sun that thins our blood anyhow. But then if you're on blood thinners, that's
I'm in Florida too. We're not too far away from one another now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about some of the tips that we can give them, give our audience to be able to help if there's a 911 call, if they need to do that, or just anything that might be helpful to taking care of an elderly parent, or a family member, because I know there's many of us out there that are in our time of life taking care of our family members. So we want to definitely be able to help them. So again, everyone, we're talking to Nancy May, and Nancy May, she's the co-founder of Care Manatee. That's CareManity LLC. You can reach her at 203-493-0078. And her email is NAM@caremanatee.com. And her website is howtosurvive911.com. And her wonderful book, I want to make sure you guys know it. The book's name is Survive 911 Medical Emergencies.
Or How to Survive 911.
How to survive. Oh, I left off the front. How to survive 911 medical emergencies. And we can find that on Amazon, right?
Yep. Anywhere, just type in How to Survive 911 Medical and it pops up.
Yeah, so it's perfect. So
like
everyone, oh, great. Oh, there, you got it there. Yeah, it's a great cover too. Yeah, it stands right out. So it's wonderful. Well, listen, Nancy, we're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more. You guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are the #1 internet singles talk network, and we're so happy that you guys join us here. You're listening to the Going Solo with Cece show, and we'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We have a wonderful show on here tonight. I am Cece Shatz, your Doyenne of relationship building. We are on the Going Solo with Cece show, and our wonderful guest here tonight is Nancy May, and we're talking about her book, which is How to Survive 911 Medical Emergencies. And I hope you guys are enjoying the show, because I really think that it's packed full of information that's going to help us be able to maybe take care of a family member or be prepared if in case of emergency. And I hear your little dog in the background.
Not so little. They're two giant standard poodles. Bad dog number 1 and bad dog number 2.
Well, that's quite all right, because they're part of the family, and that's just what happens when you're live. No worries. So and now my dog is starting to bark, so we're going to chime in here. Well, first part of the show, Nancy, we talked about, why you decided to write the book, and really some of the elements of the importance of the book, and taking care of your parents, and really being, a little bit more conscious of what we need to do as we're moving forward in our lives. So not only this book, I think, would help if you're taking care of someone, if you're a caregiver, but also prepare yourself, because of a lot of our listeners out there are single. And so, if you find yourself in the need of having to call 911 for an emergency, you kind of need to be a little bit organized yourself, know where kind of things are, what you can do, because you want to better assist the medical team to be able to help you with whatever your needs might be. So let's talk a little bit about the organizational part of maybe what we can do to try to make things a little bit easier for the medical team coming in for an emergency.
So the first thing, as we talked earlier, was the file of life. That is a must, and you can get one at howtosurvive911.com. It's a fillable PDF, so you don't have to print it out and scratch it out each time and add a new one. You just plug in the information and print it out, and you can update it anytime you want. So once you've got it downloaded, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with them. Some people will say to keep it in the refrigerator, ICE, in case of emergency. I say the last place you want your medical team to be looking for your medical information is underneath a frozen turkey. Don't make them go hunting for the leftovers in your freezer. Have it right on your refrigerator in a big red envelope. Typically, you can get these at the little red folders at your fire department or local emergency department. Some of them don't have them. They should be free. If they don't, take a little sandwich bag, and we've got the information in the book as well, and put a piece of red construction paper behind it and just write emergency info on it, and then fold up your file of life so that it's in the plastic bag, and stick it on a magnet or tape or whatever it is to your refrigerator so it's there. And have 5 to 7 copies. You want one on the refrigerator, so then the squad, the EMT squad comes in, they've got access to it. One that will go with you to the emergency department. Even if they've got it, take another copy. One that somebody will take with them following you, give to the doctors, because inevitably it gets lost or somebody loses it along the way. One that you have back at home in case it gets lost or needs to be updated. And one that another caregiver, it could be a family member, has one. It's just you can't have enough of these things. ER doctors have told me about 5% of people actually come in with their information, and it literally saves lives. Wow. So we updated, we put a little bit more information than the average file of life has. Like they say you don't need to have a blood type on there, but seconds count. And at least if you know what your blood type is, it's good to have that information on there as well. So a joke with my boss, my first boss out of work, when I went to work, is at J. Walter Thompson as a kid out of college. And we had to give blood. So I got to find out what my blood type was. And he said, "What blood type are you?" And he said he was B. And I said, "Well, I'm just A+. I'm better than you." So that was our joke.
What is the rarest type of blood? What is that?
I think it's O.
I think it's O negative.
It might be O negative. Yeah. I'm not a blood expert.
Yeah, so. I think that's what I have. I'm pretty sure that's what I have, which is, I remember them saying it's the rarest kind. Yeah. So, yeah. But
so other things that you want to do to help your emergency squad is making sure that there's a clear pathway to wherever it is that the person in need is, because they're coming in with lots of equipment. So you want to make sure that that entranceway is open. And even if it's not, and you're in the back room keeping somebody alive because you're doing chest compressions, don't stop compressing your chest just to get the door open. They'll come in the door. You can yell, scream, and just say, I'm back here, and let them know where you are in what room, so that you keep talking loudly or screaming so they can find you. And
Right.
that's important. And then let them do their job when they're there. They'll ask the same question over and over again in different ways. They're instructed how to collect information from somebody, because you're in a state of emotional distress yourself as a caregiver or a person on the side when you have to call 911 from somebody. So they know how to extract information from you, and you may respond differently each time.
Right. That's good. That's good. Good information there. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to think about it, that you don't even think about making sure the pathway is open and the door's unlocked. You're just trying to get them there, and you're not, it's, yeah.
And the toys or the stuff in the front, like we have a chair outside the front door of our house. I'd have to move that out of the way to make sure it was a clean pathway for them to get in. They'll probably toss it aside, but that's the last thing you want somebody to do, is to have an obstructed way that they can't get into you.
Yeah. I remember I had to move the coffee table. I remember when I called them, and my dad was okay by himself there, but so I went around and unlocked the door, opened the door, and then I realized, the coffee table is going to be in the way because they bring in the gurney, so it's like, yeah. So it's
they'll move it, but it's I've also known EMTs that have injured themselves permanently because of tripping over things, and we need those paramedics.
Right.
It's important.
And here's the thing too, is when and I found for myself, when I was going through that very stressful time, to have things where I was organized, and it kind of kept me busy getting whatever it was together. I knew I had to do this, this, and that. I mean, it's like bing, bing, bang, doing that. It kept my mind off of totally panicking,
Yeah.
So when you can redirect yourself to what you need to do versus what the outcome might very well be at the end of this is much better for you.
Yeah. The other thing is, don't be afraid to call 911, even if somebody has fallen out of a chair, not necessarily hurt themselves, but just physically can't get up, and you're not strong enough to get them up. They're used to getting calls to sort of, I'll call it, right side somebody, get them back in the chair and make sure they're safe and okay. And if they don't need to go to the hospital, you have a right to refuse not being transported to a hospital. Their goal is really to get you to the hospital, because that's why they were called. Right. But you can say no, and you have the right to say no. I just need to get back in a chair, and they'll get used to knowing. And many times they come to the same house time and time again, because the person caring for the older person is just not physically strong enough to get them back up.
Yeah, I had that happen too.
Yeah.
I know. It's like and my father was very mad at me for calling, but there was no way I could get him back up. I mean, I just couldn't do it.
My mom used to flirt. So when the guys came in, she says, "Oh, you're cute." I knew she was going to be okay.
That's nice. Yeah.
Even when they came for Dad, that's a good looking one.
No, she got a good sense of humor.
Yeah, even with her dementia, she always knew a good looking guy.
Yeah, what a sweetie she is. Well, it is tough during those times, and so that really probably relieved a lot of the tension, when she did things like that. So that's really, really good. Any other thing you can think of that off the top of your head?
I'd say
great advice.
Getting organized. A lot of people say a go bag is something good to have. A go bag is not necessarily a pair of slippers and a pillow and something comfortable to bring along with you, although it's good to have. But if you are the caretaker for somebody or overseeing them, a go bag includes all their medical information. So it's another file of life. Any POA, medical directive, financial directives, history, anything else that you have from the last doctor's appointment, how they're behaving, cognitive information that might add to the details for the doctor in the emergency room, exactly what happened at that particular point in time. The EMTs will have their information, but you were there at the point in time that the incident happened. For us, what we did is, with AIDS, we had a little spiral bound book, and at every shift, the people wrote down exactly what happened in the course of that shift. so that the next aide knew what would happen. They would have that conversation and transferring from shift to shift anyway, but updates on water intake, was there a change of behavior? Did mom and dad eat properly? Did they not eat properly? Did they sleep extra long? So we could see the patterns over time of how they were either rallying or declining. And that was very informative and helpful for anybody, including all the legal information so that they knew what was going on, including for my lead aide, because I was up north. I did a personal notarized note that said, in my absence, if you cannot get to me, this person, Millie, is the one that you can talk to make a decision on what needs to be done next. So I trusted her that much, and we would talk constantly, sometimes every day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes only 3 times a week, depending on the situation. But we were so in tune with one another that made my job easier as a daughter, a POA, and a trustee.
Yeah. Now we're talking about some of these documentation that we would need notarized and things like this. Is this something that we need to go to an attorney for, or what can we do to try to help expedite this the easiest way possible?
You can get a lot of this information online free of charge. I always recommend that you have an attorney go over the types of medical directives that are necessary for your state. There's also things like a DNR, do not resuscitate, DNI, do not intubate, medical directives. There's most or post. They have different names and acronyms in different states. But basically, what do you want to have happen to you in case you can't speak for yourself? And if somebody's got dementia or Alzheimer's, well, they're not going to be able to speak for themselves anyway. But that's critical information. My dad did not have a DNR. And I had to sign one for him at the end in order for them to transport him back from the hospital to home hospice. They would not release him from the hospital without a DNR or a DNI, which I thought was interesting, because if in fact they didn't have that and he went into cardiac arrest in the ambulance going back home or the medical transport, they would have done it. And that was, we knew that would have caused more problems and pain for my father.
Right. I know we've had that conversation many times as to what to do, and my dad would change his mind. One minute he'd want it, one minute he wouldn't want it, and and I just didn't know, because that when they do that,
they're insured too. I get it, because my father, I knew my dad's wishes. He fought right to the end, and I fought as hard as I could, including going in front of what I call a death panel. It's sort of known quietly behind the scenes, but the death panels, as my term, was really a group of individuals at the hospital who didn't want to do any more care for my father and put him under procedures for a stent or any heart issues. And I know my dad wanted to fight. And the cardiologist, he didn't have any cardiac issues until really the last year. And so he's in pretty good health. But the cardiologist told me that I had a right to go up against a review panel. That's how they politely call them in the hospitals, to fight their decision to say no more medical care for my dad. And they waited till 15 minutes before the procedure was going. I think those SOBs, I can't believe they put me under that kind of pressure purposely. I know it, to try and this is my sense, to psychologically break me and just let me cave and see how strong I was. Like, I'm used to going in front of boards of directors of corporations and CEOs. Bring them on. I'm happy anytime. I'll be able to talk. So, but the cardiologist sat there and supported me. And his final words were, if I didn't know the kind of care that was being provided to Nancy's father at home, I wouldn't be here. So we did it. It worked, and it gave him an extra year of life. And I know that we did our best till we couldn't.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And mom was different. Mom said if she ever got into a vegetative state, shoot her. So when she had a brain aneurysm and didn't wake up again, and the ER doctor said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, these are my mom's wishes." He was horrified. But that was my sense of humor dealing with the emotion at the time. And I never would have done that, of course, because it's illegal and I didn't want to go to jail either. And I didn't want to shoot my mom. But I think a sense of humor helps us get through a lot of the stress when necessary.
I know I've instructed my daughter several things like, okay, if I'm in the hospital, make sure you do this, this, and this, so I don't look so bad. No, I totally get it. It's, it's a very hard, a very difficult situation. And, I think us caring for our elderly is really an important task for us to do. And I think it's very admirable for people to do it, but it's
stressful,
very difficult.
Very, very if a parent is in the hospital, I'm also a strong advocate of always having somebody there by their side 24/7 in the hospital. There's something called hospital-induced dementia, delirium, that will happen at really much. It can happen if you're 16 or 17 years old. The stress and the changes in the hospital, you're being asked to wake up every few hours. They poke and prod you. They check your temperature. They check your blood pressure, and you don't get a good night's sleep when you're actually trying to heal. So that and a couple of other things will sometimes create this hospital-induced dementia. And in an older person, the doctors will sometimes just think that, well, they're out of it. They'll never come back. And family members will know better. But they can also try and get up out of bed. And that's when I've seen and heard stories of people with broken limbs get out of bed and break the other limb and then die. Even sooner and in more pain because they can't do another operation on another hip or another leg or another arm at that time.
Right.
So, and some people, they try and look at restraints. They call them seat belts. In some states that's illegal, but still, the last thing I would want to do is put some sort of seat belt or restraint device or arm cuffs on a parent, especially one that has dementia and they can't get out of bed. That's probably the most inhumane thing that you could do to anybody. But it does happen.
Yeah, I know that when my dad was when my dad was in the hospital, it was very difficult because we're going through COVID, and so they wouldn't allow people in, or if they did, you were only in for a couple hours a day, and it really made it very difficult. So,
they let me in with my mom. I mean, thankfully, she was in December, so they were very good. And when I talked to the nurse at the time when she had the brain bleed from up north, they didn't expect her to live an hour. And I got down that day, and we brought her home, and she lasted another 10 days. So I'm very fortunate to have been with both of them at the end.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you're a saint for making this book, I think, for sure. So the name of the book is How to Survive 911 Medical Emergencies. The author is here with us today, Nancy May, and we can reach her by her website, which is howtosurvive911.com. And again, she had mentioned that there's information on there that you can download. You can get like a directive and fill it out and then put it on your refrigerator so you have it. So if you have any problems with yourself or family members, you can use that. So again, we have Nancy May. She's the CEO and co-founder of Care Manatee LLC, and her phone number is 203-493-0078. Her email is nam@caremanatee, that's caremanity.com. And again, our website is howtosurvive911.com. Please reach out and give her a shout out. Let her know that you saw her here on the show today, and purchase her book. It's right on Amazon.com. You can go and get it. It's How to Survive 911 Medical Emergencies. You need it not only for your family members if you're taking care of them, but you need it for yourself, because you have to start getting yourself organized on being able to, if something happens to you, people know what to do, how to handle it, what you really wish to happen. And that's so important. So thank you so much, Nancy. Any last words you'd like to share with us tonight?
Well, if anybody is going through this now or expects to, we also have a small Facebook group or a Facebook group called Elder Care Success, and come and join us over there. I ask that if you're a provider, please contact me first, because it really is for those of us that are going through the stress and the strain and just need the support of actually caring for this life journey. But it's free for anybody to join. I just ask that you fill out the 3 questions, and I'll get you approved or not.
Yeah. Well, I'm a very big advocate for groups and connecting and things like that, because I do feel like, why go through things alone? Why go through life alone and situations and difficulties alone? And so to connect with other like-minded individuals, someone that can give you support and help get you through, because a lot of people have experienced maybe what you're experiencing, and they can give you some really great wisdom advice. And then turning towards this book, which will give you, like you said, check sheets and different things like that to be able to have it. I have not seen the book, and I think it's something that I need to definitely get for my own, and it might be a nice little present.
You've seen it now.
Yeah, it might be a present for everyone. So, How to Survive 911 Medical Emergencies. And shoot, even for kids, if you've got children, I mean, there's always a need for something like this, for sure.
Yeah, every parent goes to the emergency room typically with a child. I know my mom did it with us as kids, and my sister more than me.
There's always one of those in the family. I know, we had a couple in our family. For sure.
There's other tips. Just a quick note. There's other tips on, like, how do you make sure what you're signing when you go into the emergency room. There's certain things you should really review and not necessarily put on an electronic form. Ask for a print off and read it before you actually sign it, because you could be signing up for things that you can't pay for. And there are ways to negotiate that in a stressful situation. They still cannot refuse you medical care, but you have a right to have a voice even in a time of emergency.
Wow, that's good information for us. Thank you so much. So again, How to Survive 911 Medical Emergencies, our wonderful author here, Nancy May. Again, you can get her book and go to her website, How to Survive 911. It's on Amazon. She's a co-founder of Care Manatee LLC. Her phone number is 203-493-0078. Her email, if you want to just send her a quick email, it's nam@caremanatee.com. So thank you very much. We appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thank you very much, Cece. It's been a delight, and don't go through it alone.
No, absolutely. Well, thank you again. Well, everyone, you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We appreciate you. We hope that you enjoyed the show tonight. This is the Going Solo with Cece show. I am Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of relationships. Connecting, that's what we want to do here, is we want to connect everyone, build relationships. And if you want to send me an email, it's goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. And again, our website and radio is goingsolomedia.com. And we'll see you next time. I love it. I love having you here. I love having these wonderful guests and bringing all this great information to you. And thank you so much for all your support each and every week. We appreciate it. So you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.